At the beginning of the story, a city called Chests was like the first common lions, but then there was some such horrible horror incident that the whole city became printed from hell. But after all, there are such dangerous incidents to know about the beginning of the story. Bobby was shown to a little named Bobby, which was buried in the forest. Bobby was not a local resident and she was looking at the injury on Bobby's forehead that she had a lot of battle with man's band. After burying that man, Bobby starts out of the city in his eye, but only then he is a little scared by seeing him. He is a little scared to see him, but somehow he is back only then, only if something was standing between the bitch of the road. Bobby gives its own mode to the field so that it reached the farm filled with cows. It had a little injury. After a few seconds there was a few seconds. TBI suddenly falls down by the sky and falls down in front of Bobby and everything falls down and everything falls down and everything is Bobby Dekhta's a guy falling from the sky, cut into two pieces. If it seemed chunne to that thing, then it is known that he was an invisible person who had so much sharp that many hows had been cut into his so. Then there was a boy of Jovai na and come from him. Whether you are okay or not, it is also hobbied by seeing that inevitable wall. On the other hand, Sharif and Linda get news that the power supply of that whole town has been cut and the phone is not in the internet. Even all the satellite connections were also made by the band. They were flying on top of the city. A plane hit it with an invisible wall, which people were even more nervous, and this thing is a cast. It's not just an invisible wall but a round-shaped dome, i.e. dome, which has covered AADHE city. The second side we see Phil and his assistant Dee at the radio station which was trying to bring the signal. Why did both of them were a little confused to go here? Philco seems to be a good chance to highly high up their radio ratings, so they go to fix both the signal, while a fire truck was from dome. Seeing the Bobby truck, pointing to this invisible hair, the child lying after stopping and crushing the child, after a little some police come to the police, but it was not just about their bus to understand this and violent. TBHI usi time their US City Council man whose name was Big Jim, he also reached, but he does not understand anything in the biggest of this dumb. Here the police gets the impact that all the paths coming to that city have been banned because that due to a lot of accidents due to dumb. The junior name was being intimate with the girl named MG, which was Pashe se nurse or uski big sister, was also released after the release. MG says that I love you so much, but MG usse says that she does not feel like this. It breaks the heart of Junior and both of them begins to debate here. Here their debate is such a growing cast ki MG use thappad maar ke chali jati hai. After this we see the family of three people, in which mother Caroline Ellis and both of them were going towards the daughter of this town. They did not know that Dom covered that town. On the other hand we see an investment reporter named Julia, whose chests got very naam in the city. One day a woman to give her a secret news. She tells him that he usne week justice mill the 6 trucks full of propane have been seen, and according to that, in such a large quantity, there can be a part of a dangerous plate in the city like propane. Julia promises to invest in this breeze. He does not pay attention to him to be more of his BG in his eye. It seems that it is some kind of advertisement, so they do not pay attention to this announced and avoids colliding with them. Because they are crushed by a truck dump, which is immediately on seeing the break of your two, seeing the Dore of Nori's Dore, which is unconscious. It is unconscious, but before being unconscious, she says in a pink star, I have been bhara from the people who were injured in the town who was injured in the town. While Julia and Bobby were also bringing hospital to the hospital, Julia's husband was also a doctor. Time was not in his husband hospital. Julia is aware of Chalta in the hospital that her husband did not ever do it in I, but she was always lying to Julia. Tata was out of the hospital. Seeing both together, a separate invoice arose in Junior. While now the borders of town are sealed by soldiers, many scientists and exchanges have not even revealed the assail of this strange poor trouble. After a few hours, Big Jim meets Sharif to talk to the bigger in propane. Here, we know that they knew a little bit in this do. But they were not talking openly at this. Booby had to stay in town for one day and there was no place to stay in it, so he decides to spend the night in his own. Then the junior comes to him and asks him to stay away from MG. Booby is surprised at what is his mistake. In the meantime there is Julia K, so that he has a scene shift from here and we see that there is a place to be careless by a situation of town. Joy was also Joy to talk to a boy on the situation there, but suddenly Joy seems to read Dora and he starts speaking in the pink stars. It's before Nori said the same. Joy's sister MG is alone at home, then suddenly entering the junior in her house and takes it to the broken shelter of her father here. Here she tells him that I know the city has covered the city here. MG also knows that the Big Jim is the only junior father of Junior June, that his father was always worried about the security of his family, so he had made a shelter for the family while the second side Julia Bobby brings to stay in his house. Only then Bobby's eyes fall on his photograph of husband and it is realized that it was the same man who had killed in the morning. Linda and Sheriff were keeping an eye on all vehicles so that no, even if it does not accidentally collide from this D. Suddenly the attack is done and it goes on there. Now we have seen the event of the morning in the flashback where Julia's husband in Bobbytown came to meet him. She talks about some payment and refuses to pay her a payment to Jiz because she gets quarrel in both of them and accidental Bobby kills her goalie. Bobby knew that even though she has killed him mistakenly he will get his punishment, and to avoid it, he buried his body in the jungle. While he woke up in the morning and seeing Bobby's chain off his throat, he asks Julia in his bare. Julia tells him he will find his chain and give it to him, but only when Bobby remembers that the chain had fallen in that cabin where he had killed her husband and Joy was with his friend Ben who had helped him at the time of Cesar. Ben Joy asks Pinksta in B egg, which he had told birthday time visited at night, but Joy did not remember anything in his B. While the Dodi in the radio station, with the help of a special device successful, is a good thing to be in contact with people. It was the power to listen to Solga, but he did not say anything to him. Solga was also confused that after all, what is the inevitable Valve on the other side sitting in the Big Jim restaurant breakfast is doing that Linda has come there and listened to the news of Sharif's moon so that those people go to the burial of dead bodies in immediately, which was the Lester where to call someone in MG shelter. Puri does not succeed but Joy comes there and gives Band from Chance bed, while Big Jim comes with him who was a friend of Sharif. He becomes very sad and troubled when Linda does not have them around. Then the Big Jim talked in the last month's import of propane's import that in the import of 3 of them, he had the hand of the 3 and the death of Chupaiti Sharif from the town. The Thaki wo will not be able to tell anyone in the biggest of the ignorance, which was also good news for them. Then Linda police station has come later on this day, then see that Big Jim Sharif is looking for something to ask Linda. The Jim tells him that he is looking for Sharif's will there, but in Asal wo came to find papers connected to propane's import which could have lentils in trouble, and Lester came out immediately. It tells me that he will be in the house of Paper Sharif. To bring him to Lancer immediately sends his house. In the meantime, Julie I quickly have a cast near to D at the radio station where they see that those people can listen to the troops standing outside. Julia has come to know that those people are trying to get out of the land and they are not able to succeed in this IAMPA. After that, the release of Julia radio spreads the news in which there is a fear in people. And people are nervous, while seeing the scientist near the Ben border, seeing the scientist, see what is the effect of water above the D, but JDA kuch nahi samjhata jisse wo kisi netije pe nahi patch pate udhar. Joy is seeing that it is a sieve that she tells Ben to be a minor water from this dump. Bobby also goes to the cabin of Julia to find his chain. He gets his piece from there, but Junior came there and see him. Junior asks him whether you slept with MG here. Bobby, it seems that maybe he has seen him looking for a chain and that's why he could not know the Junior from there, so he starts to beat Junior very badly, while we see that Lester reached the house of Propellant Port papers start finding it after some time. They get it in paper drawer, only then they bring them Jav and wo seems to Jane from there to the Aga papers from the house of papers, which are the failed casts in the fire, and the whole house starts burning. Many people get deposited soon and come to the government, but without the fire truck, there was impossible. If those people burn the house then the template went very flood, so that people had the power to go, so they are together in the Booby people. Booby people come in league. Then Linda's Chakans Chakne the sounds give Sunai and drag it out and send it to the doctor for treatment here. Here people do not get success even after 1 hour in the extinguishment, and the cast is in the form of Jim Loader. It comes and drop the house, then it is calm, and after that all the tired people are gathered. Of them, a policeman of Paul, a policeman, says that all of us will not be able to get out of this doom because these are the smoke is not extracted out. He says that we all are going to be inside this doom. So he says that he runs goalie in the air, which is a second police person who collides with Doom, and he immediately goes to Paul. If you go to the skating of Joy, then you go to Nori Joy to charge Joy to charge Joy, because she takes her home, because she was the generator in her house, because she was the numbered houses of the town were only in Linda Paul. There were some people protesting outside the police station. In the Asal, those people were opposing the poor system of the police. Jim makes them all the help of them. After being a band in the lockup, the heart attack is a heart attack, so that Linda is running in the race and she has come to know that Pal was just acting to come in the attack and pushed him in lockup. The band ran away from there and Junior again goes to MG. MG had understood that if he has to remove him from here, he will have to get Junior in Jute Jal. That's why he Sajhar does her childhood memories when he used to enjoy both in ABND tunnel and says that there could be no effect on the dome car tunnel, then those people can go out here in MG sochti h ki shad wo uske pyar jal. If it has been fans, then maybe she leaves him, but there is nothing like this Junior alone. She makes a jan 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 j j j j j j j j j j plane while the police station comes in Linda instead of Linda. He immediately exits him out of lockup. It has been found that Paul has taken a rifle with a rifle and some tablets in Linda immediately in the jungle, and the cast is to be removed because he knew that Paul was often hunting Jaya on the jungle. While Jim prepares a team to cook Paul, the restaurant sitting in Carolyn was worried about Nori because he stopped his mother's house without telling his mothers. While Jim asks his team to join his team to seek Paul, he also walked with Bobby because he was a good leader in the same way. After that he knows in the jungle, Bobby also looks at his best to see that he has also been in the military, and the second and Julia Jr. looking at the tunnel. He rocks him and asks where he is going to backpack, but Junior was in a very quick and he was also nervous. He says that I am going to meet my friend in the same pass. It increases the suspicion of Julia more and more. It is a cast to reach the tunnel. It was only when Ben and two girls took their house with them, who had to charge the phone to press ban to use the generator, for which Joe Y. Ben allows a little baruchi because in the town the generator was a lot of things and thus it was not right to do it. In the jungle, we see that the search team finds Paul, but this time Paul scales in a boy's leg. The second boy also stopped waiting for him. While Jim and Bobby also run behind Paul, on the other side, the junior reaches the last sire of the tunnel where it has come to know that the tunnel has also covered the tunnel. They reach the wall closer to the wall. Only then Julia R turns on to see Julia very angry, because she was following it, like Junior crazy. She seems to mukke man to the envious wall, so that both Julia stops, sit down and talking to Julia tells him that due to a mistake made in his past, when this waste of the journalist has been fenced, the house is filled with people who use their generator to them. A crooked boy tries to charge money in return for the generator using the people who did not have the courage to speak against him, but no one was able to handle everything but more. It becomes a gum, but only before that it is wrong to have a lot of caste. Nori is very happy that Jovai gave him in the debate, while reaching Bobby and Jim Paul in the forest, but Paul had to remove his rifle. The Jim was supposed to be AMA, only after Linda came and shoot him. The second side, Caroline goes to the house and gets his daughter Nori. Usse bolti h ki use a little responsible banna, listening to PKD each other and Noori, which is born to the exchange spark, and at this time both Dore seems to be talking about a pink star, and it goes to MG in junior shelter, but thus the first aid kit in his hand was the MG stripes ointment on uske jakmo, and secretly keeps the Cesar with him, while we see that Julia and Bobby also return home after the fatigue of the day, but Julia Jr. Since listening to things, Bobby was beginning to doubt, and when Bobby gets bathed, Julia is told at the beginning of her Saman Chekran LTH's story that a city of name was first like common lions, but then there was some such horrible horror incident to be incurred, so that the whole city became a band from hell. But after all, there are such dangerous incidents there. Then the story is beginning to be a ladke named Bobby, which is a dead body in the forest. Bobby was not a local resident of Bobby and was looking at the injury on the forehead of Bobby that she would have had a lot of battle with Man's bandage, after burying the person Bobby to get out of the city in his eye it seems, but only after seeing the police officer of Sharif. He is a little scared that he goes from driving his attention, but somehow he gets budged from the police, but only some CIA bitch or between the road was standing. For Bobby gives its own mode to the whole, of which it reaches a farm full of cows. It had a little injury. After a few seconds there was a lot of land to move loudly due to the land. TBI, suddenly a thing from the sky. Bobby falls down and everything gets cooled by Bobby Dekhta's a guy that falls in two pieces from that thing that falls from the sky. That thing seems to be Chunne. Then he knows that it is Ta. Because of this there was an invisible person who was so sharp, many were also cut into HISO. Only then a boy of Jovaina came and asks him that you are right or not, seeing that unbeatable wall. On the other hand, Sharif and Linda get the news that the power supply of that whole town has been cut and the phone has become BND and the internet is not even doing it. Even all the satellite connections had also made the band. A plane flying above the city is crushed by the invitation wall, which people were even more nervous, and the fact is that it is a cast that it is not just an invisible wall but a round-shaped dome. The dome, who has covered Adhe city. The second side looked at the radio station to see Phil and his assistant Didi, which was trying to bring the signal that both of them were a sudden signal that went here. It seems that ye have a good chance to high such radio ratings, so they are lying to fix both the signals, while a fire truck was from Dom, which see the Bobby truck pointing towards this invisible here. The child is lying after stopping. After a little bit, some policemen came to the one investigation, but understanding this envious done was not just about the WC time, there was the US City Council man whose name was Big Jim. It also does not understand anything in the bigger of this dump. Here the police gets the investment that all the paths coming to that city have been banned because many accidents are being made due to that dump. The name of the name was being intimate with the girl named MG, which was the big sister of Pashe say nurse Oruski. After being intimate, Junior MG says that I love you so much, but MG Usse says it does not feel like it. The heart of the junior breaks and both of them starts arguing. Here their debate is such a growing cast ki MG use thappad maar ke chali jati hai. After this we have three people family C, in which mother Caroline Ellis and both of them were going towards this town. They were not news that Dom has covered that town on the other side. We see an investment reporter named Julia Chester's got very numb in the city one day a woman to give her a secret news. She tells him that he has seen 6 trucks filled with propane in Usne week just a smell, and according to him, such a large quantity in the city of fuel like propane, it can be a part of a dangerous plate. Julia promises that woman to investigate in this book, but she does not pay attention to her to be more in her eye. Jim Radio Rados announces announcement of emergency Cairo. Lynn Ellis and Nori Usi was having in the city wo it listened to announced, but they think it is some kind of advertisement, so they focus on this announce. Do not give up and barking with them from the door, because before that on the other hand, a truck gets crushed by a truck. Dump, seeing that he immediately breaks his life, seeing so many big inhalants of Nori Dore as LGTE, which is unconscious, but before being unconscious, she says in a pink star. Now, Nori gets done in the hospital quickly. I am from the events that are injured in the town. Bhara was also there. Julia and Booby were also bringing hospital to the hospital. Julia's husband was also a doctor in the same hospital. But at that time she was not in husband hospital. Julia know the Chalta's husband Sunday did not ever do it, but she was always lying to Julia. Tata was looking at Bobby and MG while looking at both of them, creating a separate invoice inside the junior. While now the borders of town are sealed by soldiers, many scientists and exquisites also did not know the assail of this strange poor trouble. But after a few hours, Sharif to talk about Big Jim Propane's big. We know from their button here, we know that they knew a little bit in this do. But they were not talking openly on this. While Booby had to stay for a day in town and to stay near him there was no place, so he decided to spend the night in his own eye. Julia is a cast so that she has a fight with Sean Shift, and we see that there was some tinger's party by being carelessly by such a situation of town. Joy was also joy from a boy. It seems to be talking but suddenly reading Dora, and it seems to be speaking in the pink star. First of all, Nori said that the same Joy's sister MG is alone at home. Then suddenly entering the junior in her house. Kidnap takes it to the broken shelter of his father here, but he tells him that I know the city covers the city here in the MG. It is also known that the Big Jim is the junior father is also telling junior MG that his father was always worried about the security of his family, so he had made a shelter for the family. While the second side Julia brings Bobby to stay in her house, then suddenly Bobby look at her husband's photo and it is realized that it was the same man who had killed in the morning. Linda and Sheriff were keeping an eye on all the vehicles so that no mistake should be bumped by this D. Then suddenly Sheriff attack is there and it goes to RR. Now we have seen the event of the morning in the flashback where Julia's husband in Bobby Town came to meet him. He talked about some payment and giving him a payment because of Jis. There is a quarrel in both of them and accidental Bobby kills him goalie, even though he had killed him mistakenly, but he will get it punishment and to avoid it in the forest. On the other hand, the chain of Bobby has disappeared in the morning, and seeing Bobby in the morning, she asks Julia in her bare. Julia says she will find her chain and give it to him. Bobby remembers that the chain had fallen in that cabin where he had killed her husband, and Joy was with his friend Ben who had helped him at the time of Cesar. Ben Joy asks in pink star, which he had told Parthe time visited at night, but Joy did not remember anything in his B. While the Dodi in the radio station, with the help of a special device, it is possible to contact people outside the D. Solgar was talking about talking to each other, but he did not say anything to him. There was also a confused that Solgar was also confused. On the other hand, Big Jim is sitting in the restaurant, that Linda came there. Listening to Sharif's news is that those people go to the person who buried dead body in immediately, whose name was Lester. There is no reason to call someone in MG shelter to help someone. Joy comes there and gives Bund from Chance a bed, while Big Jim comes with him, who was the only friend of Sharif. He becomes very sad and troubled when Linda was not around him and the Big Jim last in the month of the months. Import. They talked about the three of them in the import of propane, and they were talked to the town from the death of Chupaiti Sharif. Thaki wo institution nothing will not be able to tell anybody who had good news for them. Later on this day Linda police station has come, then see that Big Jim Sharif is looking for Linda. On asking Linda, he tells him that he will be there. Finding but in Assel there came to find papers connected to propane's import, which could have lentils in trouble in him and Lester. He immediately came out and tells the Lester that I will be in the house of paper Sharif. To bring him to Laszlo immediately sends his house. In the meantime, Julie I quickly has a cast near Tudi at the radio station where he can hear the conversation of the soldiers standing outside the device's issuance of the device. Julia has come to know that those people digging is trying to get out of the but it is not able to succeed in this. I am the release of Julia radio, spreading the news in the entire town, so that the fear is born and people are nervous. Seeing the scientist near the border, seeing the scientist, see what is the effect of water above the D. But JDA kuch nahi samjh aata jisse wo kisi natije pe nahi patch pate as looking at Udhar Joy, like this, like a sieve. She tells Ben to Ben's absolutely minor water can be crossed by the second, and Bobby also finding her chain. Husband goes to the doctor's cabin, it gets his piece from there, but Junior came there and see him. Ta Junior asks him if you slept with MG here. Bobby seems to see him. Perhaps he looked at finding her chain and that's why he could not know the Junior from there, so Junior starts to beat the Junior, while we see that the papers of Propellant Port starts to reach the house of Lester Sharif. Only when they get jar in the jar when wo seems to jane from there to uske per lagne, the AG of papers is on the house of the house. Whatever many people get deposited and come to the hike, but without the fire truck, there was impossible. If those people burn the house, then the tempering inside the Dawn is very flood. Therefore, I have come together in El Booby. I go to the Booby people. Nikayan sends to the doctor for treatment here. People do not get success even after 1 hour in the extinguishment and flare cast. In the end, it comes with a gym loader and drop the house. Then it is calm. After that all the tired people are gathered. One of them is a policeman of the name of Paul and says that we will not be able to get out of this doom anytime because they are not able to get out of the smoke from the and they do not let it know that we all there is a munna to do so inside the doom. It gives Goli in the air, which is a second policeman to a second policeman, and he is immediately arrested here on Paul. Only then came to Nori Joy to come to usse khati HK Joy to charge him his own phone because there was a generator in his house, which was only in the numbered houses of that town. Linda Paul, some people were protesting outside the police station. In Assel, those people were opposing the poor system of the police. Jim makes them calm down by saying that they all will be helped after being a band in the lockup. It is where Linda runs for her help, and she has come to know that the sale was acting to come only at the attack and pushed him to the band and run it in lockup and ran away from it. MG had understood that if he has to remove him from here, then he will have to get Junior in Jute Jal. That's why he Sajhar does her childhood memories when he used to enjoy both AB and D tunnel, and it may be that if there is no effect on the Dome car tunnel, then those people can go out here. MG sochti h ki shad wo uske pyar has been fenced in Jal, so maybe she leaves him, but it does not happen to Junior. Alone makes him a Jan J plane in tunnel. While Jim comes to the police station, the band looks in Linda instead of Paul. He immediately released him out of lockup. He has come to know that Paul has taken a rifle and some bullets with him. Linda was immediately in search of the forest and the cast as the cast because she knew that Paul used to go to Jaya towards the jungle hunting. While Jim prepares a team to cook Paul, the Caroline sitting in the restaurant was worried about Nori. Last night, both of them had stopped Joy's house without telling Joy's house. While Jim asks to join his team to seek Paul, he also asks to walk with him from Booby because he proved to be good leaders, and after that, those people seem to be in the forest. Booby also looks at his own features. He says that he has also been held in the military, and the second and Julia Jr. goes towards the tunnel and asks him to rock him. Whereas the backpack being done, but the Junior was in a very quick and he was also nervous. He says that I am going to meet my friend in the same pass. It increases the suspicion of Julia and he reached the destination of the house. I was doing breakfast together and I was not alone with a girl beforehand, so there was a little New Year while the COO Nori was a nidant and there was also a spot in the conversation. Then Bin and two girls take him with him. Those who had to charge the phone to press ban had to use the generator, for which Joe Y. Ben allows a little Baruchi because he had a lot of the generator in the town and thus his missed live in the jungle. We see that the search team finds Paul, but this time Paul hit a boy's leg. The second boy also stops the same while Jim and Bobby also run behind Paul Jr. The last sense of the tunnel reaches where it has come to know that the tunnel has also covered the tunnel. He reached close to the wall, so that his torch starts burning. Junior AA makes it on Junior. It is very angry because he was following him. Like Junior maniacs, he seems to Mukkeman, so that Julia stops and talking to both. Julia tells him that one in his past because of the mistake, when the journalist has been fenced in this unnecessary. The house is filled with people who had come to use their generator to use a badass boy in return for the generator. Trying to recover who was not only his own, but there was no courage to speak against him. Seeing Nori, everything is going to be ahead to handle, but the matter becomes even more gum. But before that there is something wrong, then it is only a cast. Nori is very happy that Jovi has accompanied him in that debate, but in the forest, Bobby and Jim reached Paul, but Paul had to remove his rifle, so that he was going to the Jim, and shoot him from behind. Give it to the second side, Caroline, and go to the house of your daughter Nuri, or say Bolti HK. Use a little responsible. Banna should listen to him, and Nori gets each other's hand PKD so that the exchange, the spark is born. And at this time both Dore seems to be reading both of them in a pink stars. Be Igor and goes to MG in junior shelter, but this time the first aid kit was in his hand on MG. Uske wound the oint strips and secretly keeps the Cesar with him. Bobby gets baked. Julia her Samman check run LTH.